Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick, fun recaps of your favorite movies, sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The movie 28 years later begins in the Scottish Highlands. Jimmy watches television with his sisters and cousins. Suddenly, a siren starts blaring outside and his aunt closes the door telling the children not to move. The little ones are frightened as they hear the chaos around the house. Jimmy goes to the door and calls for his father, but the door begins to shake. At that moment, it is forcefully broken down and the creatures known as the infected storm in. They attack the girls quickly, devouring them without noticing Jimmy behind the door. He takes the chance and runs away, seeing his mother being devoured in another room. As he runs through the house, he watches his relatives slowly turning into infected. Luckily, he manages to get out of the place. Outside, there are even more infected. So Jimmy runs to the church, looking for his father and asking for help. However, the priest does not see the infected as something bad. In fact, he believes that everyone has been saved, because to him, this is Judgment Day. He gives his gold cross to Jimmy and asks him to have faith. At that moment, infected break in through the window and Jimmy flees. But his father stays behind, wishing to be saved. The infected pile on top of him, biting him and turning him into one of them. All this chaos is caused by the rabies virus. Continental Europe manages to expel it and isolates it in the United Kingdom, which is cut off from the rest of the world. The country becomes a devastated land, where survivors have to fend for themselves. 28 years after the initial outbreak, a community survives on Lindisfarne Island, a safe zone separated from the mainland by a causeway covered by the tide. In the present, a boy named Spike will be taught to kill his first infected. His father Jamie prepares breakfast, but stops everything when he hears his sick wife Isla fall in the bedroom. The pair run to see her, and she panics upon learning that Spike will start training today. They argue, but she soon calms down. Isla suffers from memory lapses and confusion, so half the time she doesn't understand what's happening. Back in the kitchen, Spike meets Sam, who gives him a brand new bow. As they leave town, everyone cheers for Spike and wishes him luck. At the gate, Jenny recalls the rule. Whoever leaves can come back, but no one will be rescued. Rescue missions have already cost many lives. Then, father and son cross the causeway toward the mainland. Jamie shares old stories, and Spike is surprised to learn that people once lived far from the sea. They cross a bridge until they reach a forest, always alert for possible enemies. They finally find an infected crawling with a bird on its back. When the creature stops to eat worms, Spike readies his bow and shoots an arrow into its neck, killing it quickly. Another infected appears from behind, and Jamie also takes it down with an arrow. The noise attracts more monsters. Jamie kills another, but Spike asks to let the last one go. Jamie feels proud of his son. However, Spike feels strange about having to kill. They continue through the forest and spot some animals. Then they find an abandoned house, where an infected is hanging upside down, with a sack covering its face and letters carved into its back. Jamie suspects someone captured it while it was still human and left it there as bait. Now it is infected. Jamie wants Spike to kill it, but the boy hesitates out of fear. The infected breaks free, and scared, Spike fires an arrow that hits its head, killing the monster. Then they continue walking until they find a half-eaten animal on the ground. Spike looks up and sees its head and spine stuck in a tree. For the first time that day, Jamie is worried, as only an alpha infected could have done this. He orders his son to walk faster and in silence. When they reach an open field, a horde of infected and their alpha come. The two run back into the forest, being chased. Even in the midst of danger, Jamie continues training his son, teaching him to shoot while moving and aim for vital points, heart and head. They return to the abandoned house, eliminating infected along the way and looking for a safe place to hide. Finally, they find the attic entrance and climb up, closing the door before the monsters can see them. Hours pass as they watch through the window, but the alpha remains near. Jamie explains that alphas are bigger, smarter, and harder to kill, requiring many arrows. Since they have no more ammunition, they will have to wait. Spike feels guilty for missing some shots and taking too long to act, but Jamie reassures him, saying he did great for his first time. In the middle of the night, they see a person with a flashlight, and Jamie explains it's the quarantine patrol. On the other side, a fire breaks out and Spike gets curious, but Jamie quickly changes the subject. When Spike falls asleep, he has a strange nightmare about his mother drowning in shaking structures. Jamie wakes him because the house is actually shaking, and they need to leave. The pair run and manage to escape seconds before the roof collapses. Knowing the noise will attract infected, Jamie and Spike run home as fast as possible. The high tide has covered the causeway, but the water is still shallow, so they manage to cross. Suddenly, a flock of birds flies overhead, and the Alpha appears on the causeway to chase them. Spike slips a few times, but Jamie quickly helps him, and together they run until they reach solid ground. Jamie then shouts and whistles to alert the guards at the gate. The group turns on the lights to locate the Alpha and shoot arrows to bring it down. The creature recovers quickly, so the next arrow is set on fire before being shot. This brings down the Alpha, and Shamie drags his son to the gate. Shamie makes the two wait a few seconds to make sure they are not infected, and finally opens the gate to let them. Later, at a party, everyone celebrates Spike's return and his first kill. Shamie tells the whole story, but Spike feels uncomfortable with the celebration of so much violence. The crowd lifts him onto a chair and lets him drink. Eventually Spike becomes overwhelmed and runs outside to vomit. At that moment, he sees Shamie hiding with another woman and is devastated to discover his father is having an affair. He goes back home, where Sam is taking care of Isla, who is asleep. After telling details of the adventure, Spike asks Sam about the fire he saw. Sam thinks it was Kelson and says Shamie avoids talking about him for a reason, but gives no further explanation. The next morning, Hila wakes up with a severe headache and asks for medicine, but Spike doesn't know where to find any. Then Shamie returns, and Spike can't bear to look at him, so he leaves the room. After a few minutes, he gathers the courage to ask why Shamie didn't call Kelson to help Isla. Shamie explains that Kelson went mad a long time ago, and shares what happened on the last visit. 15. A group of scavengers, including Shamie, found thousands of bodies arranged in lines around a large bonfire. Kelson appeared carrying bodies to the fire and even waved at them, who fled in horror. Spike insists Isla needs help and confronts his father about the affair, which ends with Shamie slapping him. Regretful, Shamie tries to approach, but Spike runs upstairs to his mother. When his father tries to follow, Spike pulls a knife and threatens him. Shamie easily disarms his son but doesn't want to make things worse, so he gives the knife back and leaves. Sometime later, Spike sets fire to a barn. He then runs to alert the guards, saying everyone in town needs to help put out the fire. He promises to keep watch while the adults are busy, but as soon as he's alone, Spike grabs Isla and the two leave the town through the gate, heading toward the continent. Isla panics when she realizes where she is and starts calling for Shamie and her father. Spike calms her, saying that a man will help. After walking all day, they find a building to spend the night. Isla gets tired of keeping watch and wakes Spike to tell stories from before the outbreak, saying he looks a lot like his father. As the conversation goes on, Isla starts calling Spike Dad. He tells her to sleep while he keeps watch. Unfortunately, Spike is exhausted and ends up falling asleep too, allowing an infected to enter the building. The creature tries to eat Spike's shoelaces and spits them out when it realizes they aren't worms. Then it moves closer to his fate. When it's about to bite, someone pulls it back. At that moment, Spike wakes up and thinks it was a dream, but the infected's body is nearby. Isla says she doesn't know what happened, but a flashback reveals she smashed the monster's head against a statue. Meanwhile, a group of soldiers is being chased by a horde of infected. They try to shoot several creatures, but many are wounded and low on ammunition. Soon, the infected reach the group, biting them and causing new transformation. The remaining soldiers are forced to shoot their own companions, and only 3 manage to escape. They enter a tunnel, close the gate, and open fire on the approaching infected. Then they begin to explore the tunnel, but are surprised by an Alpha. It captures a soldier and rips off his head with the spine, which it uses as a weapon to bring down another man. The third shoots more infected at the entrance, and flees the tunnel. Back with Isla and Spike, the two continue their journey, dealing with her delusion. When they find an old statue, she talks to Spike, believing he is her father. Her nose starts to bleed, attracting an infected, but Spike quickly kills it with an arrow. Some blood falls on Isla's forehead, so Spike rushes to clean it before she touches it. Soon more infected appear and the two run as fast as they can, with Spike shooting arrows whenever an enemy gets too close. They finally reach a gas station, and struggle to open the door until they manage to get inside. The place is full of smoke, making it hard to breathe. The infected follow them inside, and the pair has to keep running. Spike grabs some objects and throws them at the creatures to slow them down. There are many monsters, and they end up cornered in a dead end, but at that moment, an opening in the roof appears, and the soldier Eric asks them to hide. He then opens fire on the infected, and contact with the gases causes a big explosion. The flames burn all the monsters, who desperately try to escape, but die before they can. Isla and Spike hid well, and are not hurt. As soon as they find an exit, they leave the building. While Isla vomits and has a headache, Eric approaches and asks for directions, panicking when Spike doesn't know what to answer. In the end, Eric decides to go with them and even offers to carry Isla during the walk. After a few hours, they stop to rest and eat apples. Eric tries to use his cell phone, but there's no signal and the battery is low. Spike had never seen a cell phone before, so Eric teaches him how it works and shows him a photo of his girlfriend. Since Spike had also never seen plastic surgery, he finds the woman strange. At that moment, the battery dies and Eric throws the phone away. The group resumes walking, and Isla moves away after hearing a noise. She follows the sound to an abandoned train full of rats, where she finds a pregnant, infected woman. At first, the creature is aggressive, but Isla shows she doesn't want to hurt her and helps with the delivery. When the boys arrive, Isla tells Spike to cut the cord. They clean the baby, but the infected woman advances and roars, causing Eric to shoot and kill her. Eric also wants to kill the baby, but Spike and Isla observe closely and conclude that the child is human. When Eric is about to shoot anyway, a female infected appears from the ceiling and pulls him outside. The infected then jumps inside, revealing itself as an alpha and showing that it has Eric's head. Seeing the dead infected woman, it becomes enraged and starts chasing them. During the escape, Spike fires several arrows, which cause little damage but slow the alpha down. Soon, Spike, Isla, and the baby manage to get out of the train, and the alpha follows to continue the chase. However, Dr. Kelson appears and knocks it down with a tranquilizer dart. Then, Kelson introduces himself and explains that he keeps his body covered in iodine because it protects him from the virus. He picks up Eric's head, calls the alpha Samson, and says he's been living in the area for 3 years, but usually keeps his distance. Spike asks the doctor to help his mother, and Kelson agrees to take them to his bone temple, a sanctuary made to remember the dead. Thousands of bones are tied to pillars and skulls form a tower. Kelson used remains of humans and infected, as he believes they are very similar. Eric's head is thrown into the fire, and after the flesh burns, the skull is washed. Kelson asks Spike to place it on the tower. Then, he hears the story of the baby and concludes that the placenta protected her from infection. He runs tests on Isla and finds out she has terminal cancer. While Isla cries, Spike despairs, not understanding that there isn't a medicine he can steal to save her. Isla consoles her son and admits she already suspected the illness, but was never sure without Spike noticing. She gestures to Kelson, consenting to euthanasia. He teaches Spike the concepts of memento mori and memento amoris, which mean to remember to die with love at the right moment. Isla gives the baby to Spike before following Kelson into the forest, where he eases her suffering. Spike thinks about happy memories with his mother until Kelson returns with her cleaned skull. After handing the baby to the doctor, Spike climbs the tower and places the skull on top. At sunrise, Samson comes running through the field, so Kelson pushes the children into a secret well he built for protection. Samson finds them and roars as he tries to remove the lid, but gives up, and the group believes they are safe. However, Samson returns, breaking the wooden structure and grabbing Kelson, shaking him before starting to strangle him. Spike grabs one of the doctor's tranquilizer syringes and injects it into Samson's arm, who instantly falls asleep, saving Kelson. Next, Spike returns to the city with the baby in a basket. He names her Isla and leaves a note at the gate for Jenny to find. The note is delivered to Jamie, who discovers Spike has left and doesn't want to be found. The letter also states that Kelson isn't crazy and that the baby is clean. Desperate, Jamie runs out of the city to look for his son. However, the tide is too high and he can't get far. 28 days later, Spike walks across the continent, surviving on animals he hunts. When an infected approaches, he easily kills it with a single shot. More creatures appear, forcing Spike to flee. The road is blocked by a large stone wall, but only one infected finds him. Spike eliminates it as well. Suddenly, someone makes a surprised sound, and Spike turns, finding an older Jimmy, who still wears his father's cross. Jimmy is impressed by Spike's skill and reveals he has his own group. More infected are approaching, so the group jumps off the wall and fights together to eliminate all the enemies in a few minutes. They laugh during the battle, as they enjoy killing with brutality. Jimmy celebrates the victory with a shout and tells Spike they should be friends. Thus ends our movie today. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates.